Jesus looks around at the crowd, and in the sea of rancorous faces he looks for and finds some friendly faces. How many? Less than 20 friends among thousands of enemies, and he lowers his head, struck by such abandonment. A tear falls, and another, and another. The sight of his tears does not engender compassion, but gives rise to fiercer hatred. He is taken back to the hall. So, let him go. It is justice. No, death to him. Crucify him. I will give you Barabbas. No, the Christ. In that case, take him yourselves, and crucify him by yourselves, because I find no fault in him to do that. He said that he is the Son of God. Our law inflicts death on whoever is guilty of such blasphemy. Pilate becomes pensive. He goes back in and sits on his little throne. He rests his forehead in his hand and his elbow on his knee, and scrutinizes Jesus. Come near me, he says. Jesus goes to the foot of the platform. Is it true? Tell me. Jesus is silent. Where do you come from? Who is God? He is the all. And then? What does the all mean? What is the all for one who is dying? You are mad. God does not exist. I do. Jesus is silent. He has let the great word drop, and then he envelops himself in silence. Pontius, Claudia Procula's freedwoman, asks permission to come in. She has a note for you. Domine, women also now. Let her come in. A Roman woman comes in and kneels down, handing a waxed tablet, and must be the one in which Procula begs her husband not to condemn Jesus. The woman withdraws backwards, while Pilate reads, I am advised to avoid your being put to death. Is it true that you are more than a haruspex? You frighten me. Jesus is silent. Do you not know that I have the power to free you or to crucify you? You would have no power if it were not given to you from above. Therefore he who handed me over to you is more guilty than you are. Who is it? Your God? I fear. Jesus is silent. Pilate is on tenterhooks. He would like, and he would not like to. He is afraid of God's punishment. He is afraid of Rome. He fears Judean revenges. For a moment he overcomes the fear of God. He goes to the front of the hall, and in a thundering voice he shouts, He is not guilty. If you say so, you are no friend of Caesar's. He who proclaims himself king is his enemy. You want to free the Nazarene? We will inform Caesar of that. Pilate is seized with the fear of man. So you want him dead? Let it be so. But the blood of this just man is not to stain my hands. And having a basin brought to him, he washes his hands in the presence of the people, who appear to be seized with frenzy, while they shout, His blood on us! His blood be on us, and on our children! We are not afraid of him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Pontius Pilate goes back to his little throne, and he calls the centurion Longinus and a slave. He orders the slave to bring him a board on which he places a notice, and has the words written on it, Jesus Nazarene, King of the Jews, and he shows it to the people. No, not so, not King of the Jews, but that he said that he is the King of the Jews. Many of them shout so. What I have written, says Pilate severely, and standing upright, he stretches his hand forward with its palm turned down, and he orders, Let him go to the cross. Soldier, go, prepare the cross. And he descends from his throne without even looking towards the uproarious crowd or at the wan, condemned man. He leaves the hall. Jesus is left in the middle of it, guarded by the soldiers, awaiting the cross. Jesus says, I want you to meditate on the point concerning my meeting with Pilate. John, who is the most accurate witness and narrator, as he was almost always present, or at least very close, relates how I was taken to the praetorium when I left Caiaphas's house, and he specifies early in the morning. In fact, you saw that it was daybreak. He also specifies they, the Jews, did not enter in order not to be contaminated and thus be able to eat the Passover. Being hypocritical as usual, they thought that it was dangerous to trample on the dust of a Gentile's house, as they might be contaminated, but they did not consider it a sin to kill an innocent. And with their spirits satisfied with the crime they had accomplished, they were able to enjoy their Passover even more. They have many followers even nowadays. All those who do wrong internally, but externally profess respect for religion and love for God, are like them. Formulae, but not true religion. I regard them with disgust and disdain. As the Jews would not go into Pilate's house, Pilate came out to hear what the bawling crowd wanted, and, Experienced as he was in governing and judging, at a glance he realized that not I, but that population, intoxicated with hatred, was guilty. By looking at each other, we read each other's hearts. I judged the man what he was. He judged me for what I was. I felt pity for him because he was weak, and he felt pity for me because I was innocent. He tried to save me from the very beginning. And as the right to administer justice with regard to criminals was remitted and reserved to Rome, he tried to save me by saying, "Judge him according to your law." Hypocrites for the second time. The Jews refused to condemn me. It is true that Rome had the right of justice, but when, for instance, Stephen was stoned, Rome still ruled over Jerusalem, and notwithstanding all that, they passed the sentence and had the capital sentence executed, disregarding Rome. With regard to me, whom they hated and feared and did not love, they would not believe that I was the Messiah, but did not want to kill me materially, in case I were. They acted in a different way, and accused me of being an instigator against the power of Rome. You would say a rebel, in order to get Rome to judge me. In their ill-famed court of justice, and several times in the 3 years of my ministry, they had accused me of being a blasphemer and false prophet, and as such I should have been stoned or killed in any way. But now, to avoid committing the crime materially, as by instinct they felt they would be punished for it, they made Rome do it, accusing me of being a criminal and a rebel. When the crowds are perverted and the leaders have become devils, there is nothing easier than accusing an innocent to give vent to their thirst for ferocity and usurpation, and to get rid of those who are an obstacle and a judgment. We have gone back to those days. The world, after an incubation of perverted ideas, explodes now and again in such displays of perversion, like a huge pregnant woman. The crowd, after nourishing its monster in its womb with doctrines of wild beasts, gives birth to it so that it may devour the best people first, and then itself. Pilate goes back into the praetorium and calls me near him, and he questions me. He had already heard people speak of me. Among his centurions there were some who repeated my name with grateful love, with tears in their eyes and smiles in their hearts, and who spoke of me as of a benefactor. In their reports to the praetor, when they were questioned about this prophet, who attracted the crowds to himself and preached a new doctrine which mentioned a strange kingdom, inconceivable to a heathen mind, they had always replied that I was a meek, kind man who did not seek the honors of the earth, and that I inculcated and practiced respect and obedience to those who are the authorities. More sincere than the Israelites, they saw and witnessed the truth. The previous Sunday, when his attention was attracted by the shouts of the crowd, he had leaned out of the window, and he had seen a disarmed man passing by riding a little donkey, and blessing, surrounded by children and women. He had realized that that man could certainly not be a danger to Rome. So he wants to know whether I am a king. In his ironic, pagan skepticism, he wanted to have a little laugh at that royalty that rides a donkey, that has barefooted children, smiling women, and common men as courtiers, at that royalty that for 3 years has preached that it has no interest in riches and power, and that speaks of no conquests but those of the spirit and the soul. What is the soul for a heathen? Not even his gods have souls, and can man have it? Also this king, with no crown, with no palace, with no court, with no soldiers, repeats to him that his kingdom is not of this world, so much so that no minister and no army rises to defend their king and free him from his enemies. Pilate, sitting on his seat, scrutinizes me because I am an enigma to him. If he cleared his soul of human cares, of the pride of his office, of the error of heathenism, he would understand at once who I am. But how can light enter where too many things obstruct the openings, preventing light from entering? It is always like that, my children, even now. How can God and his light enter where there is no more room for them, and doors and windows are closed, and defended by pride, by humanity, by vice, by usury, by so many guards at the service of Satan against God? Pilate cannot understand what my kingdom is, and what is more painful, he does not ask me to explain it to him. To my invitation to know the truth, he, the untamable heathen, replies, "What is the truth?" And with a shrug of his shoulders he lets the matter drop. Oh, my children, O my Pilates of the present times, you also, like Pontius Pilate, let the most vital matters drop with a shrug of your shoulders. You consider them useless, old-fashioned things. What is the truth? Money? No. Women? No. Power? No. Physical health? No. Human glory? No. Then forget about it. It is not worth running after chimera. Money, women, power, good health, comforts, Honors are the real useful things that one must love and attain at all costs. That is how you reason. And worse than Esau, you barter eternal goods for coarse food that is harmful both to your physical health and to your eternal salvation. Why do you not persist in asking, what is the truth? The truth, asks for nothing but to be known in order to teach what it is. It is before you as it was for Pilate, and looks at you with eyes full of suppliant love, imploring you. Question me, I will teach you. Did you notice how I looked at Pilate? I look at all of you in the same way. And if I look with serene love at those who love me and ask for my words, I cast glances of sorrowful love at those who do not love me, do not seek me, do not listen to me. But it is always love, because love is my nature. Pilate leaves me where I am, without asking more questions, and he goes towards the wicked people who speak in coarser voices and impose themselves through their violence. And he, a real wretch, listens to them, whilst he did not listen to me. And shrugging his shoulders, he declined my invitation to become acquainted with the truth. He listens to falsehood. Idolatry, whatever its form may be, is always inclined to venerate and accept falsehood, whatever it may be. And falsehood, when accepted by the weak, leads the weak to crime. And yet Pilate, on the threshold of crime, still wants to save me, and he tries twice. It is at this point that he sends me to Herod. He knows very well that the shrewd king, who keeps in with both Rome and his people, will act in such a way as not to damage Rome and not irritate the Jewish people. But like all weak people, he puts off for a little while the decision that he does not feel like taking, hoping that the plebeian rising will abate. I said, when you speak, say yes if you mean yes, no if you mean no, but he did not hear that. And if somebody repeated it to him, he shrugged his shoulders, as usual. In order to succeed in the world, to have honors and profits, it is necessary to be able to make a no of a yes, and a yes of a no, according to what common sense, read human sense, advises. How many Pilates there are in the 20th century! Where are the Christian heroes who said yes, constantly yes, to the truth, and for the sake of the truth, and no, constantly no, to falsehood? Where are the heroes who are able to face danger and events with brave strength and tranquil quickness, and do not postpone because good is to be accomplished at once and evil shunned at once, without buts and ifs? On my return from Herod, there is Pilate's fresh compromise, scourging. And what did he expect? Did he not know that the crowd is a wild beast that becomes merciless when it begins to see blood? But I had to be crushed to expiate your sins of the flesh, and I am crushed. There is not a shred of my body that has not been struck. I am the man of whom Isaiah speaks, and to the torture that had been ordered, there is the added another that was not ordered, but was created by human cruelty, that of the thorns. Men, do you see your Savior, your King, crowned with sorrow, to free your heads of so many sins fermenting in them? Do you not consider the pain that my innocent head suffered to expiate on your behalf your sinful thoughts that are more and more dreadful and are transformed into deeds? You, who feel offended even when there is no reason for feeling so, look at your offended King, and he is God, with his ironic mantle of torn purple, with a cane as his scepter, and a crown of thorns. He is already dying, and they slap his face with their hands and with mockery, and you are not moved to pity. Like the Jews, you continue to show me your fists, shouting, "Away, we have no other God but Caesar." O idolaters who do not worship God but yourselves, and those who are more overbearing among you, you do not want the Son of God. He gives you no help for your crimes. Satan is more obliging, so you want Satan. You are afraid, and the Son of God, like Pilate. And when you feel him impend over you with his power and stir within you with the voices of your consciences that reproach you in his name, like Pilate, you ask, "Who are you?" You know who I am. Also those who deny me know what and who I am. Do not lie. There are 20 centuries around me, and they illustrate who I am, and they make you acquainted with my miracles. Pilate is more excusable. You are not, as you have a heritage of 20 centuries of Christianity to support your faith, or to inculcate it in you, but you will not hear of it. And yet I was more severe with Pilate than with you. I did not reply. I do speak to you, and even so, I do not succeed in persuading you that it is I, and that you owe me adoration and obedience. Even now you accuse me of being my own ruin in you, because I do not listen to you. You say that you lose your faith because of that. Oh, liars, where is your faith? Where is your love? When do you pray to me and live with love and faith? Are you great people? Remember that you are such because I allow it. Are you anonyms in the crowd? Remember that there is no other God but I. No one is greater than I am, and no one is ahead of me. So give me that cult of love that is due to me, and I will listen to you, because you will no longer be illegitimate children, but the sons of God. And here is the last attempt of Pilate to save my life, if it were possible to save it after the cruel, endless flagellation. He shows me to the crowd. Here is the man. I arouse human pity in him. He hopes in collective pity. But before the resisting harshness and the advancing threat, he is not capable of accomplishing a supernaturally just deed, and therefore a good one, saying, I am setting him free because he is innocent. You are guilty people, and if you do not disperse, you will become acquainted with the severity of Rome. That is what he should have said, had he been a just man, without taking into account the future detriment that would befall him. Pilate is a false good man. Longinus is good, because although he was less powerful than the praetor, and less defended in the middle of the street and surrounded by few soldiers and a hostile multitude, he dares to defend me, help me, grant me a rest to be consoled by the pious women, be assisted by the man from Cyrene, and finally to have my mother at the foot of the cross. He was a hero of justice, and so he became a hero of Christ. Be aware, O men, who worry only about your material welfare, that God intervenes also in its favor when he sees you behave faithfully towards justice, which is emanation of God. I always reward those who act righteously. I defend those who defend me. I love them and succor them. I am always the one who said, He who gives a glass of water in my name will be rewarded. To those who give me love, the water that quenches the thirst of my lips of the divine martyr, I give myself, that is, protection and blessings.